and welcome back to the DoneDeal YouTube channel. I'm David OC, and today we are very lucky to be able to have a little bit of a drive in the all-new Audi e-tron GT. It is staggeringly beautiful. There's a huge amount of presence, a lovely stance, and overall it just looks drop dead gorgeous. Now the e-tron GT has a starting price of just over 102,000 euros, and it rivals cars like the Porsche Taycan and of course the Tesla Model S. However, in my opinion, potentially could be the best of all of them, as it has one really nice feature that adds to the whole driving experience. Now if you'd like to search for Audis for sale from our trusted dealer network around the country, then hit the link on the top right hand corner of the screen. But for now, let's get into the Audi e-tron GT. Now the cockpit, it is very well finished in here, and this is really where I think the Audi e-tron GT is going to separate itself from the rest of the field, because in something like a Tesla, it's a bit unfamiliar, it's a bit new, a lot of people aren't set on the big screen, whereas Audi have actually gone almost a step back to take a step forward, and they've gotten rid of, in something like an Audi A6 where you've got the two screens here and all your climate control is using physical touch buttons. I really like that. Then your infotainment system here, it's all very familiar. So it's a 10.1 inch screen, it works fantastically. You got your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. As we only have an hour with the car, I'm not going to talk too much about all that. Then over here you've got a 12-inch digital display in front of you. You can customize it to whatever way you like it. It's really good. You've got your sat nav on it. It is nice. Steering wheel, it's a flat bottom, it's very sporty, and we'll talk about that as we drive. But other than that, it is very familiar in here. You have a little gear selector here, some storage there, a phone box in here, drink holders, and all in all, it's, I keep using the word, but familiar is the word that kind of defines it in here, and that's very good because it means that you don't really realize you're in an electric car. In the rear, well, it actually does remind me quite a bit of the Tesla Model S. The panoramic glass roof really brightens it up, but it is very similar. And you can of course get ISOFIX points in, so your child seats and all that are good. Now, as you sit in, knee space, head space, it's all reasonable. What I do like is you sit quite low, and actually the floor has been grooved out to fit your feet in it. So you do have a transmission tunnel, but that's actually for your batteries. From the rear, it's got Audi Premium written all over it with this infamous light bar that comes as standard on all versions. Now, you can actually open the boot by the click of a button. Of course, it's electric, but I do want to point out this diffuser. I really like it, and actually it doesn't look lost without exhausts, which I thought it might do. Now the boot, it's not gigantic, however you will fit your golf clubs. There's a little bit of storage down there, 12-volt socket, and it is a very standard boot. We'll begin by driving on some familiar roads, little bit of a rough surface. The air suspension deals with it fantastically. It's very smooth, and I just feel like I'm in any Audi. Yes, it's a little bit bigger than your normal Audi. It's actually a little bit wider than even an RS7, but it doesn't feel particularly massive, and I do feel quite comfortable and not out of my depths. In terms of creature comforts, well, you've got all the usual ones. Heated seats comes as standard. The seats themselves are actually very comfortable. I like that they're a little bit buckety, kind of sports. You really do feel well in control. There's 3 or 4 different seating options you can get. These basic ones are perfect, and of course they're electrically adjustable. You wouldn't expect anything less from Audi. In terms of other features, obviously then you've got all your different driving aids. One really cool one is when you click this parking button down here, the 3D cameras. You got cameras the whole way around the car, and they show on this screen. It looks really cool, and it's that kind of tech when you're interested in EV ownership that you want to show your friends and your family. So I like that a lot. Now, there are 3 different modes for driving. So, well, actually there's 4. You've got eco, you've got comfort, you've got dynamic, and then you've got individual, which you can set it to what you like. And obviously only having an hour, I haven't figured out exactly what I like. But one of the things when you put it into dynamic mode is there's a really, really impressive, I think the word is sound system. So normally in EVs, there's a small little electric whining motor on the outside to let pedestrians know you're coming. But here in the e-tron GT, they've put one on the inside. So as you accelerate, I'm not sure if you can hear it, but you get a little bit of a V8 rumble almost. Now it's quiet enough in comparison to a V8, but it really gives you an emotional connection to the car. And being truthfully honest, that's what separates this from a Tesla, because you really do feel like there's a mechanical motor behind there. Even though it's just an electrical motor, you do get that sense that you're actually doing something. Now I know I keep going back to the Tesla Model S, but it is probably the most comparable car to this other than the Porsche Taycan, and I'm very familiar with the Model S. I've spent a lot of time with it, so it's easy for me to compare. And whilst it's probably not as quick, and don't get me wrong, it's ferociously quick, it is better. And the reason I say it's better is because of that noise. You just get a sense. Like, I think you get a sensation that you just don't get in a Tesla. The Tesla's a bit bland compared to this. And I think combine that with the fact that the build quality is a little bit better than the Tesla. Audi's been around for longer. People are more passionate about Audis than they might be Teslas. I think this is going to do really, really well. And I've actually been told that demand is exceeding the supply, which is a good sign for Audi. Now, I've just been blabbering on about how fast it feels. Let's put some stats, some figures behind that. It's got 480 brake horsepower, which is a lot of power. This isn't an RS car. Remember, the RS is going to be even quicker, but this has 480 brake horsepower with an overboost of about 520 horsepower. Now you only get that for 2 seconds, and it's not new for Audi. They did that in their e-tron, the SUV that you might be a little bit more familiar with, but it means that you get a lot of power. And actually, one other thing about this that's very interesting is it's got a bit of a gearbox. So there's 2 gears, gear 2 and gear 1. So gear 1 is for launch control, when you want to go as fast as you possibly can. Gear 1 will come into play. Then gear 2 is more just for the normal driving, when you put it back into comfort mode and you're driving along. Now, as we're driving through some slower sections of the road, let's talk about the part everyone wants to discuss, which is battery, range, all these things that EV owners and potential EV owners are fixated on. So it's got a 95 kilowatt hour battery, which is a very similar size to a Tesla Model S. And in fact, it's got a range of up to 480 kilometers. Now that is claimed. I think real world driving, particularly in the winter, you're probably talking more like 410 maybe. And if you put your foot down like I just did quite often, you're probably looking at 300, but that's the same with every car. Now, in terms of fast charging, because the reality is you're rarely ever going to use 400 kilometers in one stint. It's very unusual. And if you do, there's Ionity fast chargers around the place and you can get a quick charge from them. I can't remember the exact figures, but it's something like 80% or 90% in about 20 to 30 minutes. So it's really, really fast charging. By the time you go in, grab yourself a sandwich, go to the toilet, you'll be fully charged again. Now, as we make our way back to drop off the e-tron GT, I will talk about a few other really cool features. So for example, if you've got the Audi Me app, I think it's called, you can preset your temperature. This isn't new, again, you could do that in the old e-tron, but it is really nice. So for example, if you're leaving your house at 8 AM, it's a cold morning, you can set it so it's 22 degrees and your heated seat is on. Another nice feature about that is if you put your destination in the sat nav, which can all be done through the app, then it will actually calculate in potentially charging up. So let's say, for example, you're driving to Cork, it will encounter the fact that you need to stop off in Cashel and charge for 30 minutes. It will build that into your time, which is really, really impressive. I'm a big fan of that, and I like how it just incorporates it into it, so it means you don't have to think too much. The car does the thinking for you. So as I mentioned before, Audi have really kind of gone to the emotion side of you, to really make you feel like you're involved to drive it, and you get that with a little bit of oversteer. And another noticeable thing is that there's not a huge amount of regenerative braking. So if you don't know what regenerative braking is, we've done a car video explaining electric cars, which you can hit the link up there. However, what it basically means is when you take your foot off the accelerator, it will begin to slow down to regenerate power. Now there's not much of that in it. These paddles in front of you here, you can increase it, but I would say it's 10% regenerative braking, which I kind of like. It's almost like driving a combustion engine car. Now we're nearly back and we should do one last boost, because at the end of the day, we are in an Audi e-tron GT. Oh, it's blisteringly fast. And actually, you can almost feel when it goes from the second gear down to the first gear to give you all of that extra power. It's kind of like a step down. It's kind of like dropping a gear on a normal car, and that's kind of cool. And just like that, our hour with the Audi e-tron GT is up. So we're going to finish the review here with the display model. And one thing I just noticed is actually there is roof rack mounting points. So if you want to load up the bikes or a roof box, you can do that too. And other cool features I want to show you is things like the aero. The fact that it actually works and it is physical is really, really nice. This has some 20-inch wheels, and never have 20-inch wheels look smaller in a car. And I don't mean that in the wrong way. What I'm just saying is the car, the arches, they're all massive. You can get 21-inch ones if you want to fill up those arches a little bit more. I have so much to say and so little time to say it. I could genuinely spend the next 2 hours in this lovely setting discussing and talking about the e-tron GT. So if you do have any more questions, let us know in the comments. Things like the ceramic brakes that you can get, that might be of interest to you, or even things like the fact that there are chargers on both sides. It is really a great car, and on a first glance, it has very much impressed me, and I hope you too have got a bigger glimpse into what the Audi e-tron GT actually is like. What I will say is the camera probably won't do us justice to the stance and the presence that the e-tron GT has. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please do leave us a comment, a like, and of course subscribe to the DoneDeal YouTube channel, where we'll have many more videos coming, and hopefully we can get a little bit more time in the e-tron GT. Now, of course, if you would like to search for Audis for sale in Ireland from our trusted dealer network, then hit the link up there on the top right hand corner. But for now, that is it for me. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.